Good afternoon. I want to thank members of the media and to recognize the Cabinet colleagues who are here at this time. The Honorable Attorney General, Senator Wendy Phipps, Permanent Secretaries, Excellencies of the Diplomatic Corps, invitees of the representatives of the media. I am privileged to address this for the second time this month, another press conference on matters of public importance. And I want firstly to provide an update on our recovery efforts post-Hurricanes Irma and Maria. I want to turn firstly to the housing sector or human settlement sector. The Ministry of Finance has begun processing applications respecting requests for duty-free concessions to assist homeowners in the purchase of materials to repair and renovate their homes which were damaged by the two hurricanes, Irma and Maria. I am pleased to report that of the subset of claims processed so far, a majority has received approval. In order to further expedite the processing of these applications, the Ministry of Finance has engaged a number of private contractors to supplement the efforts of our building inspectors. Turning to the agricultural sector, I'm pleased to report that Cabinet has approved the sum of $300,000 to expedite the restoration of the agriculture and fisheries sector. With respect to our crop farmers, relief has already started with the issuance of input supply such as fertilizers, planting materials, and chemicals to our crop farmers. Turning to livestock, the small ruminants, that is sheep and goat farmers, have been issued galvanized and lumber 2x4 and 4x4 to replace or buttress their farm structures that have been totally or partly damaged during the passage of the two hurricanes. The large ruminant farmers, these are essentially our cattle farmers, they have been given betical, dewormers, and several bags of feed have been set aside for farmers with livestock and also those who are into poultry. Additionally, some funds have been set aside for private contractors to clear our feeder roads of fallen trees and debris, as well as to repair those roads that had been eroded. To this end, I am happy to report that such work has already been started in the area of Tabernacle to Harris's, and work should commence shortly in the area stretching from Old Road to Belmont. Meanwhile, the Land Management Unit within the Ministry of Agriculture is continuing to work on roads in St. Peter's and Kayard. Turning to the fisheries subsector, we have prioritized the Old Road Fisheries breakwater for rebuilding. In this regard, ABED Limited has been engaged to provide an engineering design for the structure. Duty-free concessions in the meanwhile are also available to our fisher folks who have suffered damages. Old Road is one of the key fisheries sites in the country, and it suffered significant damage. Rather than just do some rebuilding, we have brought on board the expertise of persons with competence in coastal engineering to help first with an appropriate design for that facility to be rebuilt. I want to turn to the education sector because in my last report I mentioned that the Washington Archibald High School had suffered significant damage. I'm advised by the Honorable Minister that those repairs to the school have advanced, and I suspect they are now complete. Yes? They have advanced significantly, so work has started there with respect to the repair work at the Washington Archibald High School. We committed, as part of our excellent support to our neighbors, to accommodate students whose education had become disrupted as a consequence of the ravages by the last two hurricanes. I am advised that so far, some 72 students of preschool, primary, and secondary school drawn from the other islands are being accommodated in our schools. Students then come from 7 countries or islands bordering St. Kitts and Nevis in some way. This is, of course, a significant development. From Anguilla, we are hosting 15 students, the British Virgin Islands, 24, from Dominica, 15, from the mainland USA, 6, St. Thomas, 3, and St. Martin, 9. Of the 72 students being accommodated here from overseas, 35 of them are in our secondary schools. 34 are accommodated in our primary schools, and 3 of them are in our preschools. Additionally, 52 of these students have applied for and receive assistance from our social services department. This, to me, is a good demonstration of solidarity that really matters and will matter in the relationship going forward, because these young people who are now accommodated here in our school system are now being offered support from our social services department will forever remember us, that we came to their support in their time of greatest need. And I am very, very pleased by this development. Of course, we have been in the forefront in terms of giving financial assistance. And while that is important, because there has been no other country within the sub-region and beyond that has matched us in terms of our generosity, in particular given our size, for me, this contribution to education, which I've long considered the best gift that we can give to young people, is an important part of St. Kitts and Nevis's support to the region post-hurricanes Irma and, of course, Maria. Turning to developments in our health sector, while this sector has not been affected, I'll rephrase that. While our health sector has not been spared the ravages of hurricanes Irma and Maria in particular, our institution-based health services, such as the JNF France Hospital, suffered significant roof damage. It is true that the facility, that is the JNF Hospital, has had a history of roof construction flaws, which repeated repairs have failed to correct. And these problems, quite naturally, were exacerbated by the passage of the 2 recent hurricanes, which saw new leaks appearing in all except 4 of the premium rooms and the private ward. I'm advised that these repairs are now being addressed by Evelyn's Roofing and Building Services. The end goal, of course, is to better serve the patients in our care. When completed, the cost of the repairs would total in the region of $1.4 million. significant damage then that we are now corrected. In my opening statement of my last press conference on October 3rd, I indicated that my government had graciously considered the paying of some incentives to workers who went beyond the call of duty in the lead up to, during, and after Hurricanes Irma and Maria. I stated then that those payments would be made during the months of October and November. The Ministry of Finance has indicated that it shall be able to process those submissions received to date from line ministries within the next 14 days. We urge delinquent ministries to submit their information at the soonest opportunity to the Ministry of Finance, because the processing at the level of the Ministry of Finance is a last in the step towards resolution. The departments have to gather their claims, submit them to the relevant authorities for onward transmission to the Ministry of Finance for action. It is the intention of the government to pay all overtime and honorarium benefits before the 30th of November, when the hurricane season would have officially ended. Hopefully between now and then, we will have no further visits by any hurricane. The fury and brute behavior of the hurricanes brought out the best in our people. We witnessed, for example, the best of our values and expectations reflected in the delightful national service of praise and thanksgiving to God following the passage of the hurricanes. And we saw the deep patriotism of our people on display on October 7th, when we commemorated our independence with a parade, the toast to the nation, and the independence cocktail reception later that evening. All three events were beautifully orchestrated, and they brought much delight to those who love our country. Unfortunately, the opposition chose not to celebrate with the rest of our country. In my last press conference, I referred to certain information drawn to my attention surrounding the leader of the opposition. I indicated the intention of the government to move, in the public interest, a full investigation having regard to the constitutional, civic, political, and parliamentary importance of the matter at hand. Indeed, since that time, the matter of eligibility of persons to participate in general and or by-elections and serve as members of parliament has raised its head in other jurisdictions such as Jamaica and Australia. Everywhere, this matter of the disqualification or qualification to serve in the parliament is treated with seriousness. In St. Kitts and Nevis, this continues to be a hot topic that will not disappear by the vain efforts of the election losers to create and manufacture fake news of their own liking. The investigation has revealed that Dr. Denzil Douglas, leader of the opposition, has a diplomatic passport, DP 0000462, issued by the government of Dominica on the 30th of July 2015 and bearing the expiry date of the 29th February 2020. The said passport has listed his nationality as Dominican. Dr. Denzil Douglas was not a passive holder of this diplomatic passport. He has used it on several of his foreign trips in the Caribbean and beyond. The people of this country call upon Dr. Denzil Douglas to tell the full and ungarnished truth of his standing with the government of Dominica. Is he a paid diplomat? And if yes, how much is he being paid? And how many visits, if any, has he accompanied officials of Dominica or represented the government of Dominica? Well, Douglas put personal avarice and self-interest above his duty as a member of Parliament and as the leader of the opposition of St. Kitts and Nevis? Has he been promoting, marketing, and soliciting development projects on behalf of Dominica and any other country for that matter at the expense of St. Kitts and Nevis, the country that he is pining to lead again? Has he offered the database of our citizenship by investment program to any other country? Does he have an ordinary or official diplomatic passport to any other country than those that are now in the public domain? These are all questions which are pertinent to the discourse as to where we go as a country and a parliamentary democracy, and the beg of answers which a leader of the opposition must feel obliged to present truthfully. In keeping with its pledge to the people of the Federation, the government continues to investigate the circumstances surrounding the issuance of a diplomatic Dominican passport to the leader of the opposition and the potential consequences for both the federal interests of St. Kitts and Nevis and, of course, the best interests of the people of our beloved Federation. The qualifications required of those elected to sit in the National Assembly are constitutionally entrenched and intended to prevent any actual or perceived conflicts of interest arising from divided loyalties. This provision is intended to protect the people as electors and the country from a person who may be in service to two masters. The Bible itself warns against this double mastering that some people would wish to play. In Matthew chapter 6, verses 24, it reads in part, no one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold on to the one and despise the other. I have deduced that there is a prevailing view that Dr. Denzil Douglas is a conflicted being. His hysterical vituperations against our country, its CBI program, and service offerings are not coming from a heart of love or patriotism. Many persons have pointed to the bitterness and perceived vendetta in several pronouncements by Dr. Douglas. The biblical verse in the book of Matthew resonates so well when we think of the fiasco now in which Dr. Denzil Douglas has found himself. Having regard to the foregoing evidential matrix and more, and in pursuit of the public interest, and I dare say its duty, the government has sought a legal opinion on the results of the investigation so far. Some legal considerations are germane to the public discussion, and we will try to help that public discussion in an informed way. I want, for example, to refer to Section 28 of the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. That section provides that a person shall not be qualified to be elected as a representative of the National Assembly if he or she is, by virtue of his or her own act, under any acknowledgement of allegiance, of obedience, or adherence to a foreign power or state. This constitutionally entrenched qualification has been further codified by the National Assembly's Act, the Act of Parliament passed pursuant to the constitutional grant of power to our Parliament. In 2009, the said Dr. Denzil Douglas had twice amended the National Assembly's Elections Act to prevent the nomination and election to Parliament of persons in allegiance, in obedience and adherence to another state or power. So serious did Dr. Douglas pursue the matter that he passed the National Assembly Elections Amendment Act 2009. That one was number 16. He went back again to ensure he's achieved his aim. He further clarified and he refined it by Act number 17 of 2009. This one styled National Assembly Elections Amendment number 2 of 2009. The mouthpiece of the Douglas Labour Party, the Labour spokesman, then brazenly challenged the eligibility of the Honourable Sean Richards and Lindsey Grant to become members of our Parliament. Indeed, the Honourable Eugene Hamilton was taken to court by the Douglas regime over holding not an American passport, but what turned out to be a green card. Hundreds of thousands of dollars were spent to satisfy the Machiavellian passion of the day. It is tragic that the said Dr. Denzil Douglas, who led the fight against others, could now have entangled himself in issues of eligibility to serve in the People's Parliament. The qualification of representatives in the National Assembly is not to be taken lightly, since the National Assembly is a place where elected members represent constituent views, discuss national issues, and call on the government to explain its actions. The question to be asked is this: has the National Assembly of St. Kitts and Nevis now been tainted by the leader of the opposition, who is a holder of a Dominican diplomatic passport? Prima facie, one pledges allegiance to Dominica, a foreign power or state. Two, advances Dominica's interests. Thirdly, clearly has divided loyalties between this federation and Dominica, and as a result undermines the interests of St. Kitts and Nevis, his native land. That question again is one which the leader of the opposition must answer. Simply put, there is a serious legal question as to whether or not the leader of the opposition is qualified to be a representative in the National Assembly. In my view, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis deserve better from their elected leaders. They deserve to have their views represented, and they deserve a parliament that works indisputably and resolutely to advance the interests of the Federation and the Federation alone. In order to protect the interests of this great Federation, its loyal people, the government is in the process of finalizing an application to the High Court, seeking declarations that the leader of the opposition is no longer eligible to continue sitting as a representative in the National Assembly, and that he should accordingly be required to vacate his seat. Given the importance of this for our democracy, our country, our people, and its parliament, I want to commend the leader of government business for bringing this to the attention of the Honourable Speaker of the National Assembly. Loyalty clearly is critical to those who serve our nation. Disloyalty to our country by any public official is a matter that must be condemned. For my part, I reaffirm that I hold no other passports than those properly issued to me by the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and I never have and never will hold allegiance, obedience, or adherence to a foreign state or power. I am too much in love with the people and country of St. Kitts and Nevis to have it otherwise. I want now to turn to another matter. Notwithstanding the fallout from 2 Category 5 hurricanes, my government remains committed to balance not only the books, but the lives of our people. And in this regard, to facilitate our people in the usual Christmas celebrations, we have decided to offer the following list of concessions for 2017. In keeping with our tradition of goodwill, I can report that effective December 1st to 31st, 2017, the allowance to non-commercial importers and travelers will be as follows. 1. Gift packages of food are allowed for the first £400 free of duties and taxes. Gift packages of foodstuff are allowed in the country for the first £400 free of duties and taxes. That is upwards of 4 large barrels, I'm advised. Non-commercial travelers and importers will receive a duty-free allowance of EC $540 or US $200 of the CIF value. Further, after consultations with the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, I am in a position to report that the discounted VAT rate day for 2017 is now slated for Friday, December 15, 2017. I should note that as part of the concessions given for that day, vehicles purchased up to the value of EC $50,000 will be exempted from the payment of VAT. Above $50,000, the VAT will obtain. Our last discounted VAT rate day yielded sales on that day of just about $41 million, the largest sales recorded in the history of a discounted VAT rate day. We hope that the early announcement of these concessions will help our businesses and consumers better manage their affairs. I want to end on that note and to invite the media for questions if there are any. We have sought in this to provide the update on where we're at in terms of our own relief efforts, and further to provide some information regarding the Christmas packages, and also we have addressed where the investigation is with respect to the matter of the leader of the opposition. I invite the media, if there is any question, to now pose.
Stay up to date with news, programs, and activities of the government with SKNIS. Like us on Facebook. Listen to us on SoundCloud. Follow us on Twitter. And watch our videos on YouTube. Connect with us today. SKNIS, St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service.